This is the I Can Do Anything podcast, and my name is Colin, and boy, do I feel overwhelmed at the amount of stuff that I missed just from not recording this podcast over the last 3 days. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday had some big games from star players, some great overtime games, some buzzer beaters. I mean, boy, is it great to have the NBA back in action. There were 3 days that I missed, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and because I can do anything, I'm going to do my best to get all caught up. I'll also have the MVP matrix that I missed out on from Thursday. But first, this episode of the I Can Do Anything podcast is brought to you by Glitch Fix. Are you frustrated with your network connection? Does your online gaming suffer due to glitches and lag? If so, Glitch Fix can solve your problem. Glitch Fix is a wireless router add-on that can be purchased anywhere you buy electronics. Simply plug it into one of the Ethernet cable outlets on your wireless router and see your internet speed rapidly increase. No more glitches during streaming of your favorite movies, shows, and videos. No more getting kicked out of your games on mobile devices and or video game consoles, and enjoy high-quality connection while chatting with friends and loved ones during video chats. Buy Glitch Fix today. Listeners of the I Can Do Anything podcast can go to glitchfix.com/anything and get 15% off. That's glitchfix.com/anything. 15% off for listeners of the I Can Do Anything podcast. So let's start with Wednesday. The big notable performance from Wednesday was James Harden's 59 points and 9 assists in a win over the Washington Wizards, 159-158. That is crazy, the amount of scoring. Bradley Beal also had a really big game that night. I believe finished in the 40s. Bradley Beal, had 46 for the Wizards on 70% shooting from the field, 14 of 20, 46 points, 7 of 12, 58.3% from three. I mean, that is incredible shooting from the field. Highly efficient. That is a highly, highly efficient 46-point night. Also had 8 assists and 5 turnovers, 3 steals, was +8 and +. Hachimura added 23. He seems like he's fitting in to the NBA scene pretty well thus far. Thomas Bryant made some big blocks in that game. Thomas Bryant, not really, I mean, he's just kind of a role player, but he's kind of underrated. He does a really great job for them defensively and as a screener, and moves around pretty well guarding the pick and roll. Ish Thomas, they got great bench production. Davis Bertans, 21 off the bench. Mo Wagner, 12 off the bench. Isaiah Thomas, 17 off the bench. And Troy Brown Jr., 14 off the bench. So they're playing 9 guys, all in double-figure minutes. And all but 2, Ish Smith and Isaac Bonga, all were in double figures in points, and they still lost to Houston. Russell Westbrook finished with 17 on 7 of 16 shooting, 43.8%. James Harden shot a pretty damn high percentage too. He was a little less efficient than Bradley Beal, but did score, 13 more points than Bradley Beal did as well. So he took considerable amount of shots, more shots than Bradley Beal. 18 of 32, 56.2%. For James Harden, that's really good. He doesn't normally shoot that high of a percentage from the field. 6 of 14, 42.9% from three is, I believe, above his season average from three, which is 22.2% this season as of Thursday night. So a great shooting night for James Harden. So he was 18 of 32 from the field, and Bradley Beal was 14 of 20. So yeah, James Harden took 12 more shots. So, anytime you take more shots like that, obviously the likelihood of you shooting a higher percentage decreases gradually. But a great night for both of them. I actually caught glimpses of that game as it was happening, but did watch like a full highlight reel from that game just because of how I was just intrigued by how high scoring of a game it was. Other games that night, I watched a good amount of the Bucks and Celtics, which was a great finish. Kemba Walker played great. It was great to see Gordon Hayward play really well. He finished with 21 points and 10 rebounds. The Celtics looked really great against, certainly a playoff championship contender in the East, the Bucks, who led the way in the entire NBA last season. They've changed around some pieces, but kept their core for the most part. Actually, the more I look at their roster, think the Bucks may be better with Wesley Matthews over Malcolm Brogdon. I think he just adds a little bit different of a dynamic. I like them both. I really like what Malcolm Brogdon is doing with the Pacers thus far this year. He had a great game on Friday, which I'll get to. Probably his best game thus far of the season for the Pacers. But this Bucks team is going to be a contender in the East for sure. And the Celtics looked great against him. Antetokounmpo finished with 22 points, 61.5% shooting from the field, 8 of 13, grabbed 14 rebounds and 5 assists. Didn't get tons of help from the rest. Wesley Matthews, the guy that I was just talking about, hopefully being a nice piece for them this season. Only finished with 3 that night. Eric Bledsoe 7, Ilyasova 7 off the bench. Their highest scorer off the bench was George Hill with 12 points in 20 minutes. Was pretty efficient though, 55% from the field and 40% from 3. Chris Middleton finished with 26. But for Boston, Jason Tatum finished with 25, shot really efficient, 45.5% on 22 shots from the field, 4 of 7, 57% from 3. Gordon Hayward, probably his best game. I mean, definitely his best game of the season, but potentially his best game since coming back from injury. He just wasn't the same last season. He had a really high scoring game, somewhere between the middle and end of last season. That was probably his best game since injury, but Gordon Hayward did a lot. Just a lot of intangibles, a lot more than just scoring. He finished with 21 on 52% shooting from the field and 50% from 3, but also had 10 rebounds, had 7 assists, played a really key role down the stretch in a big win for Boston. Kemba Walker finished with 32. Didn't shoot the ball quite as efficiently as Tatum and Hayward did. 36.8% from the field, 36.4% from 3, 6 assists, 3 turnovers, so a 2-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio, which is exactly what you're looking for, if not better from your point guard. My concern, though, off the bench for the Celtics, they just don't get a lot off the bench. And they especially didn't in this game. As I look at their bench, they just aren't as deep as they have been in the past. I know Jaylen Brown didn't play in this game, and that'll help them off the bench. He's going to be, I don't even know. It'll be interesting to see what they do with their bench. I think that Jaylen Brown would be a nice piece for them coming off the bench. It's either him or Gordon Hayward. Daniel Tice has to be their starting center. It could be either Gordon Hayward or Marcus Smart or Jaylen Brown that comes off the bench for them. But yeah, they just didn't get a lot of bench production. They had 2, 4, 5, 8 points off the bench total. Yeah, so that's a concern for them down the stretch if it doesn't improve. Some other games from Wednesday. Let's see. Friday, Thursday, Wednesday. Pacers and Nets. The Pacers defeated the Nets. Brogdon had 21 and 13 for them in a big win over Kyrie and the Nets. So Brogdon is starting to play pretty well for the Pacers. It'll be interesting to see how they mesh him and Oladipo when and if Oladipo comes back this season. Pascal Siakam is emerging. I saw an article this week. I think it was on NBA.com I don't know. I think it might have been from The Jump. I think it was a video from The Jump. The title was, Could a superstar Siakam or could a highly efficient Siakam, somewhere along those lines, make the Raptors a title contender in the East? And I certainly think so. A little tease for the I Can Do Anything podcast MVP Matrix final standings for this week, Siakam finishes 4th. Well, technically, I guess 5th because there was a tie for 3rd. But this week, Siakam finished 4th in the I Can Do Anything MVP Matrix final standings for week 2 of the MVP season. He's played really well, finished with 30 points in a 125-113 win over the Detroit Pistons on Wednesday. Let's see, shot on Detroit's side of the ball. Andre Drummond finished with 21. Markieff Morris 16. Derrick Rose 16 off the bench. Derrick Rose has played really well for them. He had 24, I believe, last night in a loss to the Bulls on Friday night. I'm recording this on Saturday. Derrick Rose has played pretty damn well off the bench for the Pistons. Langston Galloway also finished with 17. But for the Raptors, Siakam had 30 on 61.9% shooting the ball really efficiently from the field. 3 of 6, 50% from 3, 5 assists, 5 rebounds, plus 20 and plus or minus. The Raptors' entire starting 5 finished in double figures plus minus. Van Vliet had 13, Lowry 20, Marc Gasol 6, Anunoby 13. The Raptors it's going to be really, I hate to say that I'm really excited for the playoffs already because the regular season is going to be really, really fascinating just with the parity that's happening right now in the NBA, especially with Steph Curry going down with a broken hand. I believe that was on Wednesday or Thursday. I'm going to get to that here shortly. He's going to be out for 3+ months. The Warriors have completely flipped. It's kind of amazing the drastic flip that the Warriors have made from scariest team offensively ever, potentially the greatest team ever assembled, to now they probably now with just D'Angelo Russell and Draymond Green. I've already heard talks about potentially trading Draymond Green and breaking up the Warriors and potentially even trading D'Angelo Russell. But even with just D'Angelo Russell and Draymond Green, just the flip that the Warriors have made is truly fascinating. So, the Warriors went from potentially not making. They probably won't. The Warriors are not going to make the playoffs. I don't think that that's really crazy at all. I don't think that's really stepping out of bounds at all, or any kind of hot take to say that the Warriors aren't going to make the playoffs this year. But it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the Raptors this season. If Pascal Siakam can continue to play that he's played thus far this season, I really think that he could make them a contender in the East. So also on Wednesday night, let's see if there were any more notable performances or games in a 11-game night on Wednesday. Jazz and Clippers. The Jazz got a big win over the Clippers, but it was without Kawhi Leonard playing for the Clippers. Mike Conley had his first big performance with 29 points. Donovan Mitchell had 24 points. Mike Conley shot the ball 11 of 17 from the field. Come on. The internet's a little bit slow here at the WLKI studios today. Mike Conley, 11 of 17% from the field, 64.7%, 5 of 8 from 3, 62.5%. So that's good to see Mike Conley get on track for them. I watched the first quarter and a half of that game, and he played pretty well. He played pretty well to start, but I didn't think he was playing that well. My guess was a majority of those points came down the stretch for them. He also had 5 assists on the night. Donovan Mitchell, 24 points on 58% shooting, was 0 of 2 from 3, though. They didn't get a lot from the rest of their starters. Gobert finished with 13, Bogdanovich with 14. I guess that's good contributions from both of them for the most part. Royce O'Neal played 23 minutes, had 0 points, took no shots from the field, no threes, no free throws, but did grab 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 turnover, 1 steal. That's interesting. No shots at all as a starter in 23 minutes. Joe Ingles had 10 off the bench in 31 minutes, basically playing starters minutes. They didn't get a ton off the bench. That's something that I've talked about for them, that their bench production, I've thought, is better than a lot, or is going to be better than a lot of other teams in the West, and that could be something that separates them in the West. They didn't necessarily have it to the degree that they did, I believe, on Tuesday night or Monday night of this past week, where they got really great bench production, but they still did get 18, 26. They still got 30 points off the bench, which is pretty damn good, considering Royce O'Neal didn't score at all as a starter for them. So a big win for the Jazz. Good to see Mike Conley get on track. I believe that's all in terms of notable games. The Suns beat the Warriors, and that's the game on Wednesday that Curry broke his left hand. Devin Booker finished with 31, and the Hornets beat the Kings. The Kings at that point were 0-5 to start the season. Certainly not the way that the Kings, a really young team, but a team that played really great last year, wanted to start this season. Rozier finished with 22 points. The Kings did get on track on Friday, last night, and got their first win. So let's move to Thursday. Heat and Hawks. The Heat won 106-97. Jimmy Butler had an interesting stat line. 5 points, 9 rebounds, 11 assists, 6 steals, and 3 blocks, completely filling up the stat sheet in a win over the Hawks. Trae Young also got hurt. I believe that was on Wednesday as well. No, I think that was on Tuesday because they didn't play on Wednesday. But I believe Trae Young was back in the lineup. I think he just rolled his ankle. No, so Trae Young didn't play. From what I heard, it seemed like this wasn't a really serious injury, and that he could be back relatively soon. I don't know how soon, but the reports that I read said that it wasn't a serious injury, so that's good news for Trae Young and the Hawks. They did get some good production off the bench from Jabari Parker in the loss, but not a ton from their starters. Cam Reddish started at point guard, which is a little odd. He had 9 points, 4 assists. Kevin Huerter, 7 points. Alex Len, 5 points. John Collins, 12 points. DeAndre Hunter, 4 points. So just not enough production from their starters. DeAndre Bembry had 18 off the bench. Their leading scorers were all off the bench. 23 for Parker, 18 for Bembry, 12 for Wallace, and then 12 for John Collins, who started. The big games on Thursday night, I believe Thursday night was a NBA TV night. No, all League Pass games on Thursday. The Nuggets and the Pelicans. The Pelicans actually beat the Nuggets. I didn't know about that one. I had a really fucking bad headache on Thursday. Thursday is when I put together the MVP matrix, and it's a pretty extensive, like 2.5 hour sometimes, especially early on in the season when there's a lot more people in the MVP matrix that are in contention. I made some tweaks just due to the limited amount of games that have been played. I'll get to that later, but just the amount of people in the MVP matrix made it last a lot longer on Thursday, and it's a lot of looking at one screen and typing in numbers in an Excel spreadsheet, and then looking at another screen where the stats for each player are, and a lot of squinting my eyes to try to focus, and it gave me a really bad headache. So I literally got home. I started making the MVP matrix at 5 o'clock after I was done working at my office. I stayed at my office until like about 7 o'clock. So I put in like 2 hours of making the MVP matrix and didn't even finish it, and went home and made some tacos with my lovely lady and went to sleep like right away after dinner, and then finished it up yesterday after work. And it took about another half hour, but it just gave me a really bad headache. So I really didn't even pay attention at all to the games that happened on Thursday. A big win, though, for the Pelicans, 122-107, 25 points, 5 assists, and 3 rebounds for Brandon Ingram. This is a big win for them. I think it was their first win of the season. Brandon Ingram finished with, well, hold on. Let me see if it was their first win of the season or not. Yeah, they're 1-4 after that win. So, yeah, a big win for the Pelicans. Not sure when Zion is expected back. I want to say that they said 6 to 8 weeks, but that seems long to me. Not a ton of production for the Nuggets, although let's see, three of their 5 starters finished in double figures, but all low double figures. Paul Millsap 10, Jokic 13 on 83% shooting from the field. Wow. Jamal Murray 14. They did get some good double figures production out of 4 players off the bench. Jeremy Grant 14, Michael Porter Jr. 15. I forgot that he fucking played for them because he hasn't played at all until this season. He's going to be a big piece for their bench. Malik Beasley had 11 off the bench. Monte Morris 9. Mason Plumlee 10 off the bench. They played all of their bench players. Looks like maybe their last 3 got in towards the end, if this one was not very close towards the end. 122 to 107 being the final score. On the other side of the ball for the Pelicans, like I said, Brandon Ingram, 25 points on 58% shooting from the field, 2 of 4 from 3, 5 assists, 3 rebounds. So a good night for Brandon Ingram. Drew Holiday returned and scored 19 points on 41% shooting from the field and 55.6% shooting from 3, 5 of 9. Grabbed 5 rebounds and 7 assists. So good to see Drew Holiday asserting himself offensively. Still maybe not to the degree that I would hope for. Jahlil Okafor started and scored 26 points for them, 61.5% shooting. A great night for Jahlil Okafor. I'd like to see him grab some more rebounds. He only had 5. Lonzo Ball had 9 points on 57% shooting from the field, but 8 assists and was plus 17. Josh Hart returned to his bench role, kind of like a 6-man role, 26 minutes, but only 3 points. JJ Redick came off the bench. Looks like they inserted Nicolo Melli as a starter at power forward, and then moved Drew Holiday to the 2, Brandon Ingram to the small forward, and kept Lonzo Ball at starting point guard, but had Redick come off the bench, whereas before he was the 2 guard, and then Drew Holiday was the 3, and Brandon Ingram was the 4. So look for them to continue to kind of move their starting lineups around, especially as Zion comes back. Frank Jackson had 21 points off the bench, though, for them. 80% from the field, 8 of 10, 66.7% from 3, 4 of 6. So good bench production from him. I don't even know who Frank Jackson is. Yeah, I don't know who that guy is. Is he a rookie? Duke, NBA debut, 2018, 1 year in the NBA. I don't even remember Frank Jackson from Duke. Wow. Huh. And then the other game from Thursday was Clippers and somebody. Clippers and who? Clippers and Spurs. The Clippers won 103 to 97 in Kawhi Leonard's. It was in LA. So in a game against his former team, I think it was Friday morning, or maybe it was Thursday. I assume it was Friday morning that Skip Bayless came out on the Undisputed set in a Kawhi Leonard Clippers jersey and made a big announcement that he has forgiven Kawhi Leonard. I didn't even watch it. I just saw it. I saw the video on my YouTube feed. But Kawhi Leonard had a huge night for the Clippers after resting on Thursday against the Jazz. 38 points on 15 of 32 shooting from the field, 46.9%. 2 of 4 from 3, 12 rebounds, only 1 assist, which is way lower than his season average of 7.6, I believe, on Thursday night it was for the MVP matrix. It was plus 12 and plus minus. They didn't get very much production at all from the rest of their starters. The other 4 starters scored 8 plus 6 is 10, 12, 14 plus 7 is 21. So only 21 points for the rest of their starters. Lou Williams had 12. JaMychal Green, no points off the bench. Montrezl Harrell, 24 points off the bench. Continues to be really, really efficient from the field for them. wow, their bench was pretty unimpressive. Mo Harkless had 8. JaMychal Green, no points. Lou Williams, 12 points. So they had, let's see, 24 plus 12 is 36 plus 8 is 44. So I don't know. I guess that's pretty good bench production. It was enough for a win. So I think the Clippers will more than likely take it. So then that's Thursday. So let's do what should have been the I Can Do Anything MVP matrix from Thursday. The I Can Do Anything MVP matrix is a comprehensive statistical algorithm that ranks star players throughout the National Basketball Association based on 9 categories. A player qualifies for recognition for the MVP matrix by being a star performer on teams in playoff contention or on teams, in this case, this early in the season, that are above 500. I think I didn't count Kyrie Irving because the Nets at the time weren't above 500, which was probably a mistake. I'm not sure where he would have landed in the standings, but at this time of year, I could probably just include all-star players. I wanted to kind of cut it off at the 500 mark for win-loss for the team of that player, just because of, I put 23 players in the matrix this week, which is way too many people. The top like 9 players all finished with roughly the same amount of points. But then like the rest were just kind of like way behind everybody else in terms of points. But think of the matrix the same way that you would golf. In golf, there are 9 holes. In the MVP matrix, there are 9 categories. In golf, the player with the lowest score wins, and in the MVP matrix, after adding up the rankings from all 9 categories, the player with the lowest score is the MVP for that week. The basis being that the MVP award should be given to the player who gives their team the most value and not the best performer in points per game or the best performer on one side of the ball or in a few categories, but in all the important categories combined, unless, of course, we're going to change the name of the award to the Most Outstanding Player Award or the Most Amazing Performer of the Year Award or something like that. The 9 statistical categories that make up the matrix are, in my opinion, the statistical categories that indicate the best overall player in the league. In this case, this week, just because there were so few amount of games, when I was adding up the players' total points, a couple players were like really skewed because like Antetokounmpo, who his team was tied for 6th in win-loss with the Hawks. He got 22 points when it came to the win-loss, which really skewed his overall score. So I just that was just an example, but it did that for a lot of teams because there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 players that all tied in the win-loss column for 3rd. So it just would have really like skewed everybody's overall scores and given Antetokounmpo, who, his team right now finished with their win percentage is 50%, whereas a player like Kawhi Leonard, who finished tied for 5th with 4 other players, his team is 800%. His team is 800%. So like, I don't know. There's not much of a difference there between a lot of these teams. So I took that portion of it out when accumulating each player's overall scoring. But the 9 categories are points per game, assists per game, steals per game, blocks per game, rebounds per game, plus minus, which, I since creating this even argue a little bit that may skew players. There really, if this were perfect, there would be like a factor for each one. Like points per game would hold a little bit higher weight. Assists per game would hold a little bit higher weight. Steals per game, blocks per game, and rebounds per game could probably all be the same. Maybe rebounds per game could have a magnifier of like 1.5 plus minus would probably just be like 0.5 points. 3-point percentage is another. Field goal percentage and win percentage, those those aren't as important. I think field goal percentage is important. Win percentage is certainly important, but I think points per game and assists per game should probably have the highest magnifiers. But until, I've even considered, just because of the bad headache that this thing gave me making on Thursday, if I had a way to have an intern make these or somebody make these for me, that would help out a lot, but I don't. I've even considered throwing this whole MVP matrix thing out just because it takes so long for me to do, and I just really don't have the time for it to do it during my workday. And in the evenings, I just don't want to look at a computer for another 2 hours after doing so for pretty much the entire day, most days, at work. So I've considered throwing the matrix out. So adding multipliers and all of that is just another, is just making it even more difficult to make every week. So we're just going to have to deal with, I still think it's a really good indicator for who the MVP is. It certainly got it right last year with Antetokounmpo, but players are ranked in each category. The player with the highest points per game is ranked first, and the player with the lowest is ranked last in that category. And that type of ranking system is done for each category. And at the end, each player is given a score. Again, similar to the way golf scoring is done, the player who ranks first in points per game receives 1 point for that category, and the player that ranks last in points per game is given the highest number of points possible, depending on how many players qualify for the matrix that week. This week, there were 23 players in the matrix, just due to, the season being really early, and there's not any, there's only a few guys that are really emerging as high MVP candidates. I think James Harden is way down on my list just because he shoots a really low percentage, and it finished pretty low in a lot of categories. Again, if that multiplier were there, I think he would finish higher, just given his 59-point scoring night against the Wizards on Wednesday. He is probably should be a lot higher than he is on the list. But yeah, this week, 23 players. So the highest number of points possible is 23, obviously. Each player's overall MVP matrix ranking is accumulated by adding up their total points from each category based on how they ranked in each category. The player with the lowest overall score ranks the highest, and the player with the highest score ranks the lowest in each week's overall score. So I'm going to do the top 6 and not even say who the rest were, or what order they were, because I just want to keep this thing to a top 6, if at all possible. Who am I kidding? If at all possible. This is the I Can Do Anything podcast. Anything is possible. Okay, so the standings for this week are, drum roll please, get ready for it. You're not going to believe, well, you might believe who's first, but it's kind of it's a little bit of a take back. Karl Anthony Towns finished with 47 overall points and was first in the standings. Kawhi Leonard finished with 53 overall points, second in the standings. Giannis and Embiid finished third with 69 points total. Pascal Siakam finished fourth with 75 overall points. Ben Simmons finished fifth with 78 overall points, and Russell Westbrook and Damian Lillard finished sixth, tied for sixth with 80 overall points. The next closest were 84 points, 86 points, 87 points. So 7 through 9 were all pretty close. And then 10 finished with 93 points. That was a tie between two players. 11 was 94 points, and then it just got pretty separated. 12 finished with 103, 13 finished with 111, so the margin begins to increase. And 13 was James Harden. Like I said, James Harden finished 13 with 111 total points. So that part probably is a little bit skewed. I would say that the majority of people probably have James Harden. He's probably in the top 2 thus far this season. But again, the top 6, Karl Anthony Towns 1, Kawhi Leonard 2, Giannis Antetokounmpo and Joel Embiid 3, Pascal Siakam 4, Ben Simmons 5, and Russell Westbrook and Damian Lillard tied for 6th. So just some things to note as I go through everybody's stats here very quickly. I noted that Kawhi Leonard, his assists per game was 7.5, not 7.6. That really helped him out a lot. That's way up from last year. So that's a big improvement for Kawhi Leonard. I look for him to probably continue. I don't think it'll finish nearly that high. I think maybe towards the end of the season, he finishes with probably closer to like 4.5, maybe 5 assists per game. I think that'll drop, not significantly, but it'll still probably be higher than it was last year. The text on all of this is so freaking small. But I want to, so let's look at these spreadsheets are really big. And so to fit the whole thing on one page, I got to like scale it down way small, and it's actually starting to hurt my head even a little bit squinting at it on paper. But I want to look at where Karl Anthony Towns finished in each category, and maybe I'll go through a little more in depth for each category, just to highlight kind of for where James Harden finished and why he's so low. So James Harden finished 1st in points. Karl Anthony Towns finished 5th in points. And then Karl Anthony Towns finished 13th in assists per game, 2nd in steals per game, which is really big. As a big men generally aren't thought of as stealers, so to speak. Karl Anthony Towns is averaging 2.5 steals per game as of Thursday. Again, all of these numbers are as of Thursday. For every player is when normally the I Can Do Anything MVP matrix will take place. So that's really big for him. If he would have been, where your traditional centers finish, let's see, Anthony Davis finished tied for 10th. That would have probably brought him down past. That would have added, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 points to his overall total just from that category alone, which would have brought him down to 57. So he would have finished just from that category. Let's say he finished right around where your traditional center, I don't know, I guess Anthony Davis isn't your traditional center, but let's see, where did Joel Embiid finish? Embiid finished tied for 8th in steals. So he would have been brought back to 3rd still. So he still would have finished in the top 6. But then in blocks per game, he finished tied for 3rd, 4th, 5th, technically, because there's a tie for 2nd in rebounds per game. So 5th in rebounds per game. So this is where the more well-rounded players, this is where the I Can Do Anything MVP matrix rewards the more well-rounded players, because you're seeing Karl Anthony Towns finish, not crazy high in any category. 2nd is great, obviously, in steals per game for him. That's a highlight for this week for his MVP matrix standings, but 5th in points per game, pretty low, 12 or 13th in assists per game, but 2 in steals per game, 3rd in blocks per game, 4th in rebounds per game. So you're just seeing him finish, you just don't want to finish really low in any category. He then finished, 14th overall in plus minus, which is in the bottom half, or just at the top of the bottom half, a little below average. But then 2nd in 3-point percentage, again, a really big factor into him finishing so high, whereas other centers like Embiid finished 10th, Anthony Davis finished 18th, Jokic 19th. So, if you were to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to his overall score, again, he finishes, and if he doesn't, so those two combined, steals and 3-point percentage, if he doesn't finish so high second in both of those categories, and you add another 16 between the two of them, if you add 16 to 47, that is what? 67 minus 4 is 63. He would have finished 63. I guess 63 is still third. So a really credit to Karl Anthony Towns, because then he finished third in overall field goal percentage. So Karl Anthony Towns having a great start to the season. I believe the Timberwolves are they're 3-1. So they lost on. I think they lost on. Oh, that was a game I didn't get to on Wednesday night. That was the fight between Towns and Joel Embiid. The 76ers won that game to stay undefeated and to end the Timberwolves' undefeatedness at that point this season. But let me go back to that game and look at the box score. I don't know how I missed that one. Let's see. So 117-95, the 76ers won. Karl Anthony Towns finished with 13 points on 71% shooting, 3 of 5, 60% from 3, 6 rebounds. So he was outplayed in pretty much every way by Joel Embiid, who finished with 19. Only took 1 3 but made it, 5 rebounds. So I don't know, maybe not incredibly overplayed by Joel Embiid. They just got a lot more production from their starters. Tobias Harris finished with 18, Al Horford 12, Josh Richardson 12, Ben Simmons 16, 7 assists for Ben Simmons on 53.8% shooting from the field. They got some pretty good bench production. Let's see. Yeah, a lot better bench production from the 76ers. All 5 of their starters in double figures, whereas only 3 of the starters from the Timberwolves were in double figures. Andrew Wiggins is playing really well, though, this season. He finished with 19 on 6 of 16% shooting from the field, 37.5. Isn't very it's not great, but it's not horrible. Shot 1 of 6, 16.7% from the field. That's pretty on par for Wiggins in terms of three-point percentage. Not the greatest three-point shooter, but he's played well thus far this season in their previous 4 games leading up to that game. So, yeah, Karl Anthony Towns finished really great. I want to talk about James Harden's individual stats as well. So James Harden, first in points per game, third in assists per game. So those two, like I've talked about, those should probably have the biggest multipliers on them. And those are ones that he finished really high in and will continue to finish really high in throughout the season. So 1 in points per game, 3 in assists per game, and then tied for 10th. But there were a number of other ties. So 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So tied for 14th, technically, in steals per game. And then, let's see, tied for 9, 10, 11, 12. Tied for 12th in blocks per game with 3 other players. So that's where you're seeing the contrast to Karl Anthony Towns. He's already finishing too low in these categories that he should be a lot higher in. And then let's see. So yeah, and that's blocks per game. Finished tied for 12th, tied for 12th with 3 other players in blocks per game. Then rebounds per game finishes 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Finishes 21st in rebounds per game. That's just not good enough. With his rebounds per game total at, let's see, 4.3. I don't know. I guess everybody else, that's not horrible. I mean, a lot of these other guys are just a lot better at rebounding. There's a lot of forwards in the MVP matrix, a lot of big guys. It seems like little guys just don't do well enough in rebounding and other categories to really, I mean, I guess the little guys that are I don't know, Russell Westbrook would be considered a little guy, sort of, I guess, right? I didn't put Steph Curry in due to the injury. He's just not going to be an MVP candidate. He's going to miss way too much of the season. And probably, I wouldn't be surprised if he just didn't play the rest of the season with how bad the Warriors are. The Warriors are in tank mode already. Isn't that crazy? The Warriors could potentially be in tank mode, and we're 2 weeks into the season. That's fascinating. So then, let's see. Plus minus, Harden is tied for 16, 17, 18th in plus minus, just not good enough there. 3-point percentage, 20th. Just not good enough in 3-point percentage, and field goal percentage 22nd. So those two really, really hurt him. But listen, I think that's important. I think field goal percentage and 3-point percentage are incredibly important. It has a lot to do with your value. Like if you're taking a lot of bad shots and missing bad shots, or if you're taking good shots and missing good shots, and you're taking way too many of them. I mean, James Harden is probably averaging. Let's see how many shots per game James Harden is averaging this season. So box score for the Rockets. Bring me to James Harden. I would guess that James Harden is probably averaging. Let's see. On Friday night he took 31 shots in a loss. He took 31 shots in a loss. So let's go to James Harden's overall stats. I'm gonna have to do some math here. So let's see, because they're not going to give me his average when I go to the stats. They're just going to tell me his total. So let's see. 2019, he's played 5 games. He's shooting 36.5% from the field and 20% from the 3-point line. Tell me his totals. Let's see. 2019 totals. He's taken 126 field goal attempts, and he's made 46. Field goals made 46. It doesn't seem like enough. Field goals made 46 and 126 attempts. 46 divided by 126. Oh, that gives you the 36.5. Duh. That's what I was going to do. I wanted to see how many he averaged. So 126. No. 5 games played divided by 126. Is that right? No. 126 divided by 5. Does that make more sense? I'm so fucking bad at math. How do you see how many shots per game somebody is taking? 5 divided by 126. 39 shots per game. Is that right? Does that sound right? Yeah. 0.039. 5 divided by 126. That's got to be it, because 126 divided by 5 is it's 25.2. That makes a lot more fucking sense. 0.039 is less than 1 shot per game. Wow. Listen, you didn't come to the I Can Do Anything podcast for any genius math. So James Harden shoots 25.2 shots per game this season, and he's taking, 5 divided by 73s so far this season. Nope. 70 divided by 5, shooting 14 threes per game. I don't know. Those numbers aren't crazy. I think he should probably take half that amount in threes. I think he should maybe take closer to 7 threes per game. I know that's not how D'Antoni is running that offense, and that's not going to happen. But I think I think he could serve his team a lot better if he took a lot less shots, or just was more efficient, was a little more choosy on the shots that he took. But he's shooting 95.1% from the free throw line. That's really impressive. That's really good. And he gets to the free throw line a lot. 5 divided by 81. Fucking damn it. 81 divided by 5. He's shooting 16.2 free throws per game. So, I mean, that's just, that alone helps him to be really efficient, because he shoots such a high percentage from the free throw line. Just shooting that many free throws per game helps his efficiency. But it's not helping enough because he is finishing far too low in field goal percentage and far too low in 3-point percentage. So I think that about wraps up the I Can Do Anything MVP matrix for this week, because this is already a pretty long episode. We're right at about the 50-minute mark, and I want to talk about Friday's games. I try to, so I'm here at the radio station. I've wrapped up my morning news duties, and part of those morning news duties, as I've explained before, include doing little sports summaries. So to do those sports summaries, I obviously had to see the results of the NBA games. Oh boy, the Lakers and the Mavericks had a fucking phenomenal game last night, and because I couldn't keep the scores mode off or the hide scores mode on, I had to look at the scores to do the news. I probably could have done the news, the sports news, and just done like the local high school football playoff action from area high schools around the Angola area. I probably could have just not done the NBA, but there was really, like, that's really all there was since baseball is over. I could have done college football games that are taking place today, but I didn't even do those because the NBA story was so long, because I had such a good time writing the NBA story. It ruined it. Danny Green hit a buzzer beater to send the game into overtime to make it 103-103. And then the Lakers played really fucking well in overtime, apparently, and outscored. Let's see. The Mavs finished with 10, so only 6 points for them in the overtime, and 16 in overtime. Is that right? Yeah, 16 in overtime for the Lakers, 119-110. Over the Mavs. LeBron James had a triple-double. Doncic also had a triple-double. LeBron James finished with 39 points on 56.5% shooting from the field, 13 of 23, 4 of 9, 44.4% from 3, 81.8% from the free throw line. That's something that should be noted in the MVP matrix. Well, free throw percentage isn't in the MVP matrix, but that's something that I talked about last episode that I wanted to keep an eye on. So let's see what LeBron James is shooting from the free throw line thus far this season. That's something that I want to keep touching on throughout this season. He's shooting 82.9% from the free throw line this season, still higher than any other season in his career. It was a little higher than that last episode when I looked at it, but still, I want to see LeBron shoot better from the free throw line this season. I think that can play a significant role in the improvement of the Lakers over this season. So 39 on 56% shooting from the field, 4 of 9 from 3, 44% from 3, 12 defensive rebounds and 12 rebounds total, 16 assists, a career high for LeBron in assists, as well as plus 15 and plus minus. He also had 4 fucking steals and 1 block, so a really, really great all-around game. Just because of the element of suspense, I really, really wish that I wouldn't have been able to see this score ahead of time and could have just watched the NBA League Pass replay. But you know what? Everything can't go my way, can it? But Anthony Davis also finished with 31 points on 53% shooting from the field. 15 of 28 was 0 of 5 from 3. That's going to hurt him next week in the MVP matrix standings for his 3-point percentage. He already is shooting the ball pretty poorly this season from 3. That'll go up, but let's see, what is it right now? Anthony Davis, as of Thursday, was shooting... Where are you at, Anthony Davis? Was shooting 27.3% from the 3-point line. Pretty considerably, I would guess, lower than a lot of his prior seasons. 3-point percentage. This season now, after what was it, 2 games as of Thursday, just 1 game. So yeah, that really did hurt him. It brought him down from 27 to 18.8% from 3 this season. In past seasons, 33.1%, 34%, 29, 32. His third year, he shot 8% from 3. But only took 12. His second year, he only took 9 and shot 22%. And his first year, 0 of 6, 0% from 3. So, drastic improvement as of last year from his first year in the league in terms of as a three-point shooter. But his best year was 2017 at 34%, only dropped 0.9% at 33.1% last year, but down pretty significantly to 18.8% thus far this year. I think that'll get corrected a little bit. I think maybe he's not in the 30% this year, but maybe in the high 20s, mid to high 20s as the year concludes. He'll shoot better than he is right now. He's shooting pretty poorly from 3 thus far. As for the rest of the Lakers, Danny Green, like I said, hit a buzzer beater to tie the game, a buzzer beating 3 to tie the game to send it into overtime. He finished with 14 on 55.6% shooting from the field, 3 of 6 from 3. Avery Bradley had 11. Kyle Kuzma played his first game, had 9 points in 18 minutes, shot 3 of 8 from the field, 0 of 4 from 3. So pretty good efficiency in terms of like points in how many minutes. What is that? A point, half a point for every minute. But didn't shoot the ball very well from the field, especially from 3. He needs to shoot the ball well from 3, and 0 of 4 isn't exactly exciting as a Lakers. I really don't like calling myself a Lakers fan, but as a LeBron fan who, by the transitive property, is a Lakers fan, Kyle Kuzma is going to have to shoot the ball a lot better than that. Caldwell Pope, only 2 off the bench, so not really very much bench production from the Lakers. They got 9 plus 2, 11 plus 7. Let's see. Holy shit, I'm bad at math. 7 plus 2 is 9. 9 plus 9 is 18. I can do that shit. Plus 4 is 22. So only 22 points between 4 players off the bench for the Lakers. Jared Dudley didn't play. Quinn Cook only played 4 minutes. Dwight Howard played 26 minutes, had 4 points. 8 rebounds. So I don't know. I would, Dwight Howard's not going to be he's not going to score, like he did in that game where he played really, really well. I believe that was against the Jazz, maybe. But not going to be a scorer for them off the bench, but played significant minutes. I can't wait to watch this game and fuck, damn it, I wish I wouldn't have had to see the scores. So let's see, from the rest of the NBA, like I said, the Rockets lost. James Harden had 36 points and took way too many fucking shots in a loss. I'm just going to continue to criticize James Harden and Russell Westbrook. James Harden, 36 points, took 31 shots, shot 32.3% from the field, 2 of fucking 16% from 3, 12.5% from 3. That's terrible. Why are you shooting that many threes if you're missing that many threes? I don't fucking get it. 8 assists, 5 turnovers, -14 plus minus. I just think he hurts the team so much more than he helps. I mean, yeah, it looks good. 36 points, that looks good if you're just reading the box score and you don't see the final score, but you lost. Russell Westbrook had 27 points, shot the ball better than James Harden did, 48% from the field, but 1 of 6, 16% from 3, 8 assists, 7 rebounds. They didn't get a ton off the bench, 9 from McLemore. Eric Gordon, pretty underwhelming, 3 points off the bench. Austin Rivers had 7, so they only got, 19 points off the bench. Brooklyn, on the other hand, 4 of their 5 starters in double figures. Joe Harris, 15. Taurean Prince led the way for the Nets with 27. Karis LeVert, 25. Kyrie Irving, 22 on 38% shooting. LeVert shot 53% from the field. Taurean Prince, 52% from the field. Also grabbed 12 rebounds for Taurean Prince. Kyrie Irving had 10 assists. Garrett Temple also added 16 off the bench. Again, they didn't get tons of bench production. Spencer Dinwiddie, who's averaging a lot more than 5, only had 5 points off the bench for them on 28% shooting from the field, 0 of 2 from, well, I mean, they won, but they only played, let's see, they played 5 guys off the bench, but only got 27 points off the bench, but they won, so I'm sure they'll take it over the Rockets are going to be a playoff contender in the West, so a good win for the Nets at home. I believe that was at home for the Nets. The Pacers beat the Cavs. Malcolm Brogdon played well, led all scorers for the Pacers. The Bucks beat the Magic. Don't care to talk about that one. That one was a pretty big blowout. Kemba Walker finished with 33 points and 6 rebounds in a 104-102 win over the Knicks. Jason Tatum hit a turnaround game winner at the buzzer. In this one, I'm amazed that it was even that close. Marcus Morris Sr. had 29 points for the Knicks. R.J. Barrett had 15. Frank Ntilikina, I don't even know how to pronounce that guy's name. I've heard it said so many times, but for some reason I don't know how to pronounce it. Frank Ntilikina had 10 points. Bobby Portis 13 off the bench. Kevin Knox 12 off the bench. Julius Randle only had 8 points. But for Boston, Jason Tatum finished with 24 and that game winner. That's really going to be a big confidence booster for him. Jason Tatum was actually in the MVP matrix. I put 3 guys in the MVP matrix for the Celtics. I put Gordon Hayward in there because of how well overall he's played this season. He hasn't had really staggering numbers and actually finished, Gordon Hayward finished tied for 14th in the MVP matrix, tied with Kyle Lowry. But I don't know. I want to be able to track these guys' development because I don't want to just write Gordon Hayward off as not a contender for the MVP matrix and then have him play really well. I guess if he emerges in the conversation amongst your NBA outlets and ESPN and all these big, if people start to talk about players as MVP candidates, then I could add them in. But certainly next week I'm going to take a lot of guys that finish towards the back end of the MVP matrix out of the MVP matrix until they legitimize themselves as MVP candidates. I had Lou Williams in there and he finished last. But Lou Williams is going to be a great player on a great team. But with Paul George, who will be in the MVP matrix eventually, probably, even though he's out and going to miss the first couple of weeks, maybe the first several weeks of this NBA season. There's just a lot of guys in here that could probably be taken out. But CJ McCollum could very easily be an NBA or an MVP contender, but he finished with 127 points, 17th out of 23. So I don't know. Yeah, the MVP matrix is a work in progress, obviously, but 3 Celtics in the MVP matrix, just because of how well I think that they're gonna. I think the Celtics are gonna have a better year this year than they did last year without Kyrie. I just really think that he was kind of cancerous for them last year. And Jason Tatum, that game-winning shot is going to be a big confidence booster for him, and I look for him to play really well in the next upcoming weeks following that game winner. Bulls-Pistons, the Bulls won. Don't care to talk about it. The Kings beat the Jazz on a buzzer-beating shot or a game-winning shot off of an offensive rebound from Harrison Barnes, and it was their first win of the season, so a big notable win for them. The Spurs blew out the Warriors 127-110. Patty Mills led all scorers with 31 points off the bench for the Spurs, so Patty Mills continues to play really well off of a great FIBA World Cup performance all around. For Australia, Patty Mills was really great against Team USA and continues to play really well, extended into this NBA season. 31 points on 62.5% shooting from the field, 10 of 16, 6 of 9, 66.7% from 3, 5 of 5 from the free throw line, 2 assists, 3 rebounds. Patty Mills played great for them. Rudy Gay had 16 off the bench. He's another one that I sort of considered for the MVP matrix, but then I looked at his numbers and I knew that compared to everybody else's, they weren't going to be good enough, and he probably would have finished towards the back end. But Rudy Gay, he's someone that I've talked about. I talked about a good amount last season. Like, he's just got every tool that you would think. He just looks the part, but just never really performs very well. He's a guy that's going to go down as like one of the better players in NBA history to never win, or to never not only not win a championship, but he may be like Carmelo Anthony, like, played in the playoffs a decent amount, didn't play probably in the playoffs as much as he could or should have, but Rudy Gay really hasn't even played that much in the playoffs, except for his time with the Spurs, because the Spurs go to the playoffs pretty much no matter who's on their team. But Rudy Gay could go down as one of the best players to never really do anything. There's some others, obviously, like J.R. Smith's an NBA champion, so that kind of throws him out of the conversation. But there's a number of guys. Darius Miles is one that comes to mind, just overwhelming athletic ability, maybe not overwhelming scoring ability like Rudy Gay has the ability to score, but Rudy Gay will probably, and I don't see the Spurs, this grouping of Spurs contending even for a championship, but they're definitely not going to win a championship. So Rudy Gay could go down as one of the better players in NBA history to never really do anything even in the playoffs, let alone, deep into the playoffs. The Spurs win in a landslide. D'Angelo Russell scored 30 points. And he's going to have a lot of games like this where he scores a lot of points, where he probably improves his tradability, but they're all going to be pretty meaningless points because they're not going to win. He'll have big performances in losses. He shot the ball 37.5% from the field, 27%, 3 of 11 from 3, 8 assists. So, if you're just looking at points and assists, 30 and 8, that's pretty damn good. But you lose because he's got pretty much no help. Draymond Green only had 6 points, 7 assists, 8 rebounds. That's a pretty good night for Draymond, just because, he's not really, he's going to need to be, if they're going to even have a chance at making the playoffs, he's going to need to be more of a scorer. But 8 rebounds and 7 assists is par for the course for Draymond in terms of those categories. Alex Burks finished with 14 off the bench. Damian Lee, 16 off the bench. Draymond's going to need to score for them. But honestly, the fucking Warriors are in tank mode. How fascinating is that? Yeah, so look for... I wish I would have been able to watch that game without knowing the score. I can't wait to go home right now and watch the Lakers and the Mavericks from last night. I'm going to a Halloween party tonight, so I probably won't be watching too many games tonight. If there's any good ones tonight, as I look at today's schedule, I really don't. Nothing that really stands out. Blazers and 76ers is on NBA TV, so I won't be able to watch that. Raptors Bucks, probably a pretty good game. But other than that, not really that good of games. Timberwolves Wizards, but Cat is out. Suns Grizzlies, Nets Pistons, Pelicans Thunder, Nuggets Magic. So a good night for me to go to Van Wert, Ohio to have apparently what's going to be a really big Halloween party at Sloan's house. So I'm excited to go see a good amount of my friends that I haven't seen in a while and just be around some people. And I'm dressing up as my girlfriend bought me a costume, and I forget the character's name. Sub-Zero. I'm Sub-Zero for Halloween this year. I don't really care about Halloween or dressing up, but Sloan seems to be pretty. He keeps telling me that he won't let me in the party if I don't have a costume on. And I don't want to drive like an hour and 15 minutes to Van Wert he wouldn't. He would let me hang out, especially because I'm going to get there well before the party starts. But I didn't feel like being the guy at a Halloween party that didn't have a costume. So I'm Sub-Zero this year, I guess. It's going to be probably a pretty uncomfortable costume because I'm going to have like a face thingy over my mouth. It's going to be difficult to breathe, but should be fun. I don't know. I'm excited to just hang out with people and get some socialization in. So thank you for listening to the I Can Do Anything podcast today, brought to you by Rangefinder. Do you have trouble finding your range on the golf course? Rangefinder helps you dial it in, whether you're on the tee box, in the fairway, in the rough, or making your approach. Rangefinder can help improve that handicap. Caddies around the world use Rangefinder to make club selection a breeze, but they won't help you with that breeze coming in from the east. So stop guessing how far away you are from the flag and start knowing with Rangefinder. Our listeners can save 50% off on their next order by visiting rangefinder.com/anything. That's rangefinder.com/anything. Thank you for listening to the I Can Do Anything podcast, brought to you by Rangefinder and Glitch Fix. Have a great weekend. What a great week in NBA playoff in NBA action. Looking forward to next week. Thank you for listening.